Hello, it's Phil for Digital DJ Tips. I'd like to give you a talk through today of the Wave 8 monitor station, active monitor speakers for DJs. Now these are something I think a lot of our readers are going to be quite interested in because they take the best of two worlds really. They are serious monitor speakers. Now traditionally, if you want to monitor your music properly in your practice room, whether it's in your bedroom or whether you've got a dedicated room or in your living room that you also practice in, you've got two choices. You can use some kind of consumer, home hi-fi, cinema system, good computer speakers, you know, that kind of thing, which is great because it's got lots of inputs, it's got volume controls, it's got remote controls, you know, you can plug all your other gear into it. It works well in those kind of spaces. Or you can be a bit more serious and you can buy active monitors, proper dedicated monitors. Active monitors like these have their own power supply. They have their own amplifiers built in, and they are designed to give you great sound quality, but generally at the expense of flexibility because they are wired into your DJ controller, say, and then it's hard to put anything else into them. You need to get around the back, you need to unplug stuff, but also they've got individual volume controls, so you kind of get your hand around the back trying to get the volume controls right on the left one and get the right one turned up the same amount as you've turned up the left one if you just plug in something else in and all that kind of stuff. So they tend to be designed to be plugged in with one thing, a studio console, a mixer, a controller, and left. Now that's not very practical in the kind of places that we've just been talking about, in your home. So if you want that kind of serious monitoring, the kind of sound quality you can get from proper monitors, but you also want a bit of flexibility, you've really been quite limited. And the old-fashioned way of doing it was to have a little mixer, and you'd put everything into your mixer. So you'd have your DJ controller going into it, you'd have your TV going into it, or your home cinema, or your Xbox, and your iPad, your iPod, your computer, all these things, and then you just kind of like choose which one you want to come out the speakers. Now that's not very user-friendly, especially if it's your living room. It's all right in your bedroom maybe, but also you've then got to buy a mixer. This kind of gets around it all in an elegant way. Now the first thing to say is that the Wave 8, which is these 8-inch woofers, there's also a Wave 5 with a slightly smaller woofer. The Wave 8 and the Wave 5 are not unique in what I'm about to show you. The Pioneer have got a range of speakers that are similar as well, but these are a lot cheaper than the Pioneer ones, and so therefore they might appeal to more people who can't afford to buy kind of more mid-range gear. So what's different about these? Well, to start with, they are proper active monitors. If we look on the back, you'll see that each one, these are identical by the way, each speaker is exactly the same. Each one has a power supply, proper big power supply, a power on off button, and then a range of inputs here. Big heat sink, you know, they're serious stuff. But the first thing you can see is that there's 3 inputs, which is quite generous for a monitor speaker. The Pioneer ones have got 4 by the way. You've got an XLR, a jack, these are both balanced inputs, and you have an RCA which is unbalanced. Now you might notice immediately there's only one socket, there's only one RCA. That's because they work on their own. So if you're plugging your DJ controller into a pair of these, you'll put one lead from the right hand output, the right speaker output, into this one, and a separate lead from the left speaker output into this one. So you can see the differences from monitor speakers to normal speakers where you'd have one lead going to one place kind of thing. So these are mono inputs, but of course 2 speakers will make stereo. So you've got your RCA, your jack, and your XLR. So you can have up to 3 things plugged into them. And if you're plugging in, say, a DJ controller, maybe your DJ controller has a balanced output, in which case it'll go into one of those. And maybe you've got something else that's got a balanced output or a jack output, and then of course the RCA. Maybe you plug into your computer or even your iPod dock or something like that. So there's where you can get up to 3 inputs into this unit. Let's have a little look at what else we've got here. These are as close as you're going to get to a tone control on an active monitor. Now, again, one thing about active monitors is they don't like to let you mess too much with the tone. They want to give you a pure, simple route from whatever you plug in there to what comes out the speaker. However, nowadays they do tend to have something that just lets you tweak the tone ever so slightly. The reason, of course, is that you've got bass, treble and mid controls on your DJ controller or on your mixer. You shouldn't need them on your speakers too. But we have got 3 small buttons here. One of them is a high frequency trim, which actually boosts or drops the very high stuff a little bit, or just leaves it flat. Then there is a low frequency cutoff, which just decides where it cuts off on the very, very bassy notes. Can be useful for controlling boom in the room. And acoustic bass, which is new to me. I'm not sure what this does, but again, it's meant to kind of tame bass if you've got a very reflective room that's banging bass frequencies all over the place. So that's as close as you're going to get to a tone control, and then there's just a little volume control there. These two here are the innovation with these speakers. The first lead connects the speaker round to the other one. So suddenly they are connected, which is unusual on monitors. As I said before, they're normally completely independent. The second one is the real twist in the tail of these, which is this bit here, the remote control. Now, the remote control comes on a nice long lead. You just saw the other end plugged into there. You plug it into either of the speakers, and it allows you to control them both together. So suddenly that problem of having to do the volume control on each one separately is gone, because this big volume control here will turn them both up and down at the same time. Better than that, you can turn them both off. Holding that in, they're now off. The little RCA light's still lit there, just because it's in kind of standby mode, like when you turn your TV into standby mode, but it's off. And then holding it in again, we'll turn it on again. This button here, input, this is the way of switching between the three inputs. The lights on the front here are showing us which input we're currently listening to, XLR, jack or RCA. We're currently on RCA, but pressing that will change the input on both speakers together. So now you can cycle from that can just sit there by your decks or by your controller or on your desk or wherever you've got them set up, and you can cycle between your inputs really easily. And finally, there's a mute here, so touch that, it's now muted, and then whichever input you've got going is flashing. And that's just, turn it again, and it unmutes. So the actual construction quality of these, they're quite heavy, they're made in wood, they're good quality components. There's a bass port at the front which just lets the bass move the air quite efficiently. They're a modern design, they're a nice design, they sound good for the money. They're not an expensive speaker. They're a third cheaper than the equivalent Pioneer ones, and neither model are particularly expensive for active monitors. You can get well into 4 figures when buying active monitors. They're not technically up there with the purest studio monitor type devices, but they're not meant to be. If you look at the price tag, you'll see why. However, they're a good entry-level attempt at this kind of speaker, and this stuff makes them far more useful for the kind of DJs who've got busy lives and small houses and lots of other things to do, as well as just spend their time DJing. And maybe you can't afford, or you haven't got space for speakers for DJing, speakers for home cinema, speakers for your computer. You need one set to do everything. For those kind of guys, they're perfect. I really like them. Try and get a listen before you buy, as with all speakers, because they're very subjective, but I think they're good value for money. They're well made. There might be a copy of Pioneer, but it was a good idea, and Reloop have copied it in a good fashion. It works well. Yeah, I really like them. Wave 8 here, Wave 5 also with the smaller woofers, and therefore they're obviously smaller speakers. There's a full review at digitaldjtips.com, so please go and have a look there if you're interested, where you'll find up-to-date pricing and availability. Thank you for watching.